Hello, James here. Um, Today we're going to look at ways of approaching TMA 3. So this is going to talk about, first of all, analyzing the title, thinking about how you can do the reading for the TMA while bearing the title in mind, how to take notes while you're doing your reading, and then going through the stages of writing your first draft and planning TMA 3, how you may approach it. Um, so Yeah, units 5 and 6 will help you with finishing the TMA, but first of all, let's just look at the title. So for this one, you're expected to write a 1,500-word essay, and the title is Walmart is a US-based multinational corporation. Critically discuss the costs and benefits likely to have occurred as a result of its takeover of Asda, a UK-based company. Okay, so this is an essay, the first one we've done for LB160. So just generally, obviously essay means continuous prose. The only structure is going to come from the way you use your paragraphs. So that means the first line of every paragraph is going to be very important in helping with the structure, because obviously in essays, unlike reports, in essays we don't have headings, we don't have illustrations or figures or anything like that. We don't have bullet points. It's just continuous sentences, prose. So paragraphing is going to be very important in the structure here. But first of all, let's just look at the title. Now, the key words here are critically discuss, and also I would say costs and benefits. So first of all, let's just look at critically discuss. So discuss means looking at something in detail and from different angles, looking at the advantages and disadvantages of something. Now, critically discuss means being skeptical, not believing everything that you read, and then evaluating the evidence that you come across. So you may read several sources of information that say slightly different things. What's more likely to be true, and so on. So, for example, if you're getting your information from the Walmart webpage, you have to think about things like, okay, well, this information is good. You can use it in the essay. That's fine. But are they going to tell you everything on the Walmart webpage? Are they going to tell you the negatives? Probably not. They're going to try and paint themselves in a fairly positive light, I'd have thought. So you have to bear things in mind like that in mind when you're finding information. Also, that obviously bears in mind, or where are you going to find perhaps slightly more impartial information? And obviously that's going to be from other articles and so on. So here, critically means evaluating whether something's important, quite important, or not important. And then obviously rearranging your essay according to that. Other keywords, obviously costs and benefits. So costs are the negative things that have impacted various stakeholders in the takeover, and benefits are those positive things that have happened as a result of the takeover. So think of the different stakeholders who would experience costs, and those different stakeholders who would experience benefits. So, for example, some stakeholders that would involved in the takeover would obviously be the companies themselves. That's Asda and Walmart, and their shareholders. Employees of Asda and Walmart would be fairly important stakeholders. Customers would be fairly important stakeholders. The host economy, so in this case, as we're talking about the takeover in the UK, it would be the British economy or the British government. Other people that would possibly be involved would be competitors. So we've got some different stakeholders there. The takeover has happened. What has benefited those people, and what sort of negative things have happened to those people? Okay, so we've looked at the title. Now you have to read the various texts. So some of these texts are fairly general. They're about multinationals and takeovers in general, but they give you some good ideas on the sorts of benefits and costs that happen to multinationals when this sort of thing happens. So there might be some useful information there. But if you're looking specifically at Walmart and the Asda takeover, there is one text that covers that. So basically, just remember these texts provide a lot of information which is useful. They also provide some information that isn't so useful. So you have to read critically and decide what's going to be useful for your essay. We can't just put anything down just because it's interesting. It has to be related to, is it a cost to someone? Was it a benefit to someone? So while you're reading, obviously you will hopefully be taking notes. Now with TMA 2 that was fairly straightforward because we had the SWOT table. So you could do your reading and just think, okay, I've got my table here, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. Okay, oh, that's interesting. That's a weakness. I'll put it in my SWOT table. Read some more. Oh, that's a strength. I'll put it under strengths in my SWOT table. So taking notes for TMA 2 wasn't too tricky. You might, especially since there's a lot more reading and since it's quite a big assignment, TMA 3, and it's our first essay, you may be having a few more issues maybe with how to take notes. One way that might be useful is just to do something like this. Again, just draw up a table with 3 columns. Write down all the different stakeholders in the left-hand column. Obviously, you might want more than these. You might want Asda employees, Walmart employees, shareholders, or you could have Asda as a company, or Walmart as a company, the government, competition, customers, or you might have Asda customers, Walmart customers, whatever you think the stakeholders are. And then another column with costs, another column with benefits. And then as you're doing your reading, if you come across something and go, oh, that's a decent cost, you might have something like, in fact, let's just change that to Walmart. You might sort of come across something and go, oh yes, that's a benefit to Walmart from the takeover. They increased or something like that. Now, one hint, and basically just do that as you read. So when you come across something that you think's relevant, just write it down. This is also quite a nice way as well of making sure that you do stick to the costs and benefits, and you don't start including information that's a bit general or vague. Now, one hint, as I say, when you do come across this, do write down where you found it. So just put a little reference, in-text reference next to it. Just so you can remember where you found it. Believe me, once you started filling this in and you've ended up with quite a big table, maybe a page or two of table, when you start writing your essay and you want to mention something and you think, oh, where did I find that? It is really annoying and time consuming to start going through all the different articles and stuff to try and find it. If you just put a little reference to where you found it, just so you remember where you did find it, it does save a lot of time. Even if it's just something, if it's not official Harvard referencing, just so you remember where it is. So if there's something like Asda article, multinational article, or something, just so you can remember where you found it. It can save a lot of time. The other good thing as well with doing something like this with a table is when you do find some information, try and either turn it into a noun group, so it's nice and brief, or just put it into your own words, rather than just copying a chunk or cutting and pasting a chunk over. Because if you put it into your own words or you turn it into a noun group in the table, not only are you saving words and being brief and concise, which is obviously a good thing, you're less likely to then accidentally commit plagiarism, which is where you basically copy something word for word without referencing it properly. So if you just put it into your own words, you're a lot less likely to accidentally copy a chunk from the original source. So, okay, so taking our notes, hopefully once you finish you should have all this filled in. Or, I mean, as I say, you might come across bits. There might not be any costs to the customers. If you've done all your research and there aren't any, well, fair enough, you can't make things up. So, you may not necessarily fill all of it in, but hopefully you'll have enough of it filled in to write your essay once you've done all your reading and research. So that's our notes. So then we can think about planning. So then, well, okay, I've got this 1500 word essay. How am I going to plan this? Well, one, there's been several ways, but the two obvious ways, perhaps something like this is the first one. You start with your introduction. As a rule of thumb, so it's very rough and ready, but as a rule of thumb, this is normally about 10% of your essay. So this should be something like 100, 150 words, something like that. Anything much more than 150, I would start thinking is getting a bit too long. But as with all introductions, whether essays or reports, it's pretty much the same formula. A little bit of background information on the takeover, just to sort of set the scene and let us know what's going on. Define any key terms. So, okay, what is a multinational corporation? What is a takeover? Why do they do takeovers? And so on. And then the purpose of the essay. So the purpose of this essay is to critically discuss the costs and benefits to blah, 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 blah. Then you might want to arrange it like this. As I say, you won't have headings in this because it's an essay, but you might have these as separate paragraphs. So you might do your costs first. So the first cost of the takeover was to the employees of Asda. They blah, 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 blah. The second cost was to the shareholders, or to Asda, who lost blah, 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 and so on. So all of your costs first, and then, however, there were also a number of benefits to the takeover, these included, and then do all your benefits. That's one way of doing it. Or you could do your benefits first and your costs second. That's one way. The second way, and then, yes, in your conclusion, you just summarize the main points. So it can be seen there are a number of costs, including blah, 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 and a number of benefits, including blah, blah, blah. And then refer back to the question. However, it can be seen that the number of benefits mean that this was a positive step for Walmart, or whatever you decide. Another possible one would be, you'd have your introduction as per usual, and then instead of arranging it by costs first and then benefits, you might arrange it by stakeholders. So you might do employees first, the costs of the employees, the benefits of the employees. Then you might move on to the companies, the costs to Asda and Walmart, the benefits to Asda and Walmart. Then you might move on to the customers, the costs to the customers, the benefits to the customers, and so on, and do it like that. And then your conclusion. So two different ways of possibly arranging that. So once you've got your plan, you've got your notes, so you've got your information and you've got your structure for how you're going to put the information in your essay, you then might think, okay, I've got to write my draft. So, as we've said in the notes, and I've said on the forum, you can send me a draft. The deadline is in just over 2 weeks. I can't remember the date off the top of my head. It's something like the 15th or 16th. That weekend, anyway, of January. Just email it over on your email. Now, the feedback to this, it's not going to be as detailed as you normally get on your TMAs, but I will be able to see if you're going in the right direction. I will be able to see if your structure makes sense. So just to make sure that you're not bouncing around from one point to another. If you want to put some, I would recommend you try and reference, because if you have any doubts about referencing, I can look at those and either say, yep, fine, you've got no problems, or I can correct some of those references so you've then got something that you can, a little format that you can then copy for the rest of the essay. And basically, yeah, just hopefully just show you whether you're on the right lines. And then finally, yeah, when you're going through your essay, it's worth bearing in mind, as we've said with the other TMAs, to look at the marking criteria, because obviously these are the things that I will be looking for when I'm marking. So you get 25 marks for use of source material. So yeah, have you used a wide number of sources, or have you just stuck with one article? Have you used the information correctly? Is it sort of have you put it into your own words and just arranged it that sort of way? Is it referenced properly? And so on. So yeah, any information that's not yours, any information you've got from the texts, you need to reference, even if you're not quoting. So if you put it into your own words, remember, if it's not your idea, you found it in the text, you still need to include an in-text reference. And of course, you will also need a reference list at the end. Um,